Tell us how unprecedented is the use of sanctions that we've seen by the Trump administration. Are they using them more than other administrations have, and on different countries, different types of countries than we've seen from previous administrations? This is a break with the past.
No, it's not a break with the past in the sense of, other administrations have used sanctions. Obama used sanctions against Iran starting in 2011, and in fact, that's one of the things that brought Iran to the negotiating table over nuclear weapons. But what's unprecedented or what's unusual about this is that Trump is using sanctions against America's allies. Primary sanctions in the case of Turkey, but secondary sanctions in the case of America's European allies. So it's basically threatening the European allies or European companies that if they don't subscribe or abide by the sanctions that are being imposed on Iran, that were imposed earlier this week on Iran, that they will, come down on European companies.
Is there anything unprecedented there, using forcing other parts of the world essentially to adopt your sanctions? Is that something that others do? Has it always been done? It's just been done quietly behind closed doors?
Well, another version of this would be using tariffs. So, I mean, what you're seeing from this administration is it's leveraging the huge American market to put pressure on both allies and adversaries to amend their ways, adjust their ways, and to do things that are consistent with what the Trump administration wants. So, it's taking advantage of America's structural position in the international economy.
And how does that play out? Are there any negatives to doing that? Because if it was as simple as we are the biggest economy in the world, therefore we get to set all of the rules and tell others which sanctions to apply and which to go along with us on, that sounds incredibly simple.
Well, I mean, if you're focusing strictly on sanctions, if companies are very dependent upon the American market, so if you view kind of the American market versus the Iranian market, they're likely to cave and follow America's desires. But, if you view this kind of more broadly in terms of putting economic pressure on other countries, I mean, China's hitting back, and it is hitting Trump's political base in the U.S. and so it's not this kind of tariff wars. They're not that easy to win. I mean, it's complicated, and it involves pain inside the United States as well as in China, if you think about this kind of more broadly. And I mean, I would say that kind of moving down this path vis-a-vis America's allies, I mean, it just causes a tremendous amount of tension in the transatlantic relationship. And we've seen this. We see it on trade. We see it on sanctions. We see it on defense spending. And it's hard, if you kind of take the long view, to see how this really advantages the United States strategically.
So strategic goals for the United States could be jeopardized by worsening the relationship in the short term. Yeah,
I mean, I think the thing is that Trump is effectively fighting on so many different fronts at the same time. Normally, kind of in foreign policy, you set priorities and you don't try to have multiple conflicts going on at the same time. Now, Trump's strategy is, or it seems to be, or Trump's approach is that if he has many balls in the air at the same time, he has more flexibility, and we'll have to see.